In life, we get what we're looking for. After years of being told to eat the rainbow, on a keto and carnivore journey, we're looking for variety. That doesn't make any sense, but that's what we're looking for. We want to be keto, but we still want to have fun treats occasionally. And that's why our YouTube feed is full of keto recipes whenever we start a keto diet or carnivore. We're looking for recipes, we're looking for ways to keep our food fun. And this leads us into the world of keto replacement garbage because we're trying to mimic the diet that was causing problems for us. Today, I want to tackle how our goals set our intentions. A goal to eat the rainbow means that we're looking for ways to eat everything while staying thin, versus a goal to build a healthy body means that we're looking at whatever food guidelines or recipes that we're going to possibly eat, like however we're going to plan to eat, as a possible avenue towards a healthy body versus simply some kind of fun food or not even food, right? So is this going to help me to grow my body and be stronger, or is it just simply not food? So if we look at the new food guideline through this lens, I think that the way that you're able to keep yourself healthy is going to make so much more sense. You are going to have a better chance of keeping yourself on track by looking at the world this way. Because I want to do that because I'm so tired of people being told that they're failing at their diet or that their body is failing because of old age. Our bodies aren't struggling as much as they're struggling just because we're in our 50s or 40s or 30s. I mean, I see people as young as 20 already struggling. That cannot be because of your body being old. Our bodies are struggling with the high carbohydrate diet that we've all been eating from the day we began eating solid food. Fruits and vegetables in abundance, right? That's what we were told. They're the healthiest things that we can eat. We were told that fruits and vegetables were healthier than even meat, right? Minimize meat is what we were told to do. The problem with that is that that causes damage to the body. So I want to look at this new plan that RFK put out, which I'm still flabbergasted that the plan is out. I'm excited for it, but at the same time, I want to just talk a little bit more about it and how it relates to the way that we've been told to eat our entire lives. One of the great things that he did is he put protein at the top in abundance. And he's saying, this is what, well, now it's right up there with vegetables, right? But he's saying protein should be in abundance. The reasoning that they gave is that it would be moving us towards a healthier biological reaction. So basically, they want to leverage the fact that when we eat meat, we build muscle and we have a natural sense of fullness. But bonus word, I want you to understand that that's still pointing us back to this idea of managing our weight, right? Like men want muscle, so they talk about muscle preservation, and women want to feel full and not gain weight. And so they're talking to us still from this old idea, this old way of looking at food that says it's all about how you look. And it's not about what it's really about. What food is really about is creating the healthiest version of you. And so if we eat things that will produce muscle, if we eat things that will be able to repair all the internal organs, which meat allows us to do, right, with its accompanying fat. So meat with its accompanying fat. Again, there's some question marks, and I haven't been able to find the answer to this. Maybe if you know, put it in the comments because I would love to know. Like, there's some question marks for me about how much fat RFK was talking about in his food recommend in the new pyramid and the recommendations. I couldn't find anything specific. I'd love to know your ideas on that. The most important thing I want to point out here, Wellness Warrior, is that this focus on fullness doesn't necessarily help us to understand why eating the meat and the low glycemic vegetables are the best option. So I would like to talk more to that. And I do talk more to that in the video that I put out last week. The other great thing that this change in the food pyramid did is it reduced the amount of grains coming in. So rather than it being up to 11 ridiculous servings of grains and whole, like that was never supposed. So, like I mentioned, Louise Light, when she was first making the food pyramid, the original, was very clear that 2 to 3 servings maximum was what we could manage. So this 2 to 4 is still 1 serving more than we should be having, which it's it's lowering the possibility of chronic diseases and insulin resistance, and right, is we're gonna potentially unlock our body's ability to tap into the fat storage that we've all been walking around with and not really sure how to tap into. But there's still a problem because there's that, I mean, 2 to 3 on the maximum was what Louise Light said, right? Not 2 to 3 will be fine, will be dancing. It was on the maximum, which really says to me, if 2 to 3 is on the maximum, it should be 0 to 1 if you can't afford anything else. Like that's the way that I hear that piece of information. And if you hear it the way that I'm hearing it, then it makes you kind of question, why are grains still being pushed to 4? So there's still things that, yeah, I would love to see looked at a little bit. Fruits and vegetables are still encouraged on this, but they're much lower on this pyramid. So again, a great thing. They're much lower on the pyramid, and I definitely say that we can't do better. Now, we could do better actually, because if they weren't on the pyramid, right? But for the regular people in the world who are eating standard diet, throwing these things to the bottom of the food pyramid and saying have the least amount of them as possible. So the fruits and vegetables, the good vegetables are at the top, the fruits are in the middle, so have less of them. So the focus of this food pyramid is on eating whole foods, real foods, things that were alive at one point. And for that, I will say that I am totally happy that that's what RFK did with his new food pyramid, because eating stuff that we've processed to heck in a factory hasn't done anything good for our health over the last 50, 60 years. I mean, we can go back because this problem goes back. Now brings me to another issue that I want to bring to you guys' attention, which is we've been taught to do as our doctor says. We've been taught to listen to authority, which means that our little kids will listen to their teachers. We tend to follow directions from anyone who's in an authority scenario to us. And the problem that I see there is that, well, first of all, we are now aware that we have been nutritionally gaslit for years. And this happens because the official advice is ignoring the biological reality of our bodies. So, one frustrating thing to me is that back in 1863, when Banting wrote the letter on corpulence, the first version, many of the doctors ridiculed him and just told him he's like pushing old news. And we're basically saying like you're late to the game, dude. If you think this is revolutionary, it's not revolutionary. We've known that. And the big question on Banting's mind, the big question in my mind when he recounted the story is, if we know this, why are we telling people to eat balanced diet? Why are we telling people to eat carbohydrate first foods? Why are we not telling them to eat meat, fish, poultry, eggs first? And, like at the minimum, first. If you need to eat the other things, fine. And so Banting posed a good question, and I want you guys to think about this question because here's the problem. Even back in 1863, doctors were aware that carbohydrates cause weight gain, and yet everybody was having being told that it's okay to eat these other things, right? To eat vegetables and fruits. And nobody was, not even the people who are overweight, were being warned that, oh, well, you do realize that da 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 da. The doctors themselves were overweight. So I definitely feel like one of the big problems that we're still facing is that there are a lot of people in authority, even though this new food pyramid has been put forward, not all the people in authority see the value of this new food pyramid. And so, because they don't see the value of the food pyramid, will we continue to be misled when we go to see our doctors? Right? And I understand that the doctors are people just like us, and they did not teach themselves medicine. So they were taught medicine in institutions that were funded by companies that profit from us eating the stuff that we eat. That's just a reality that we all need at some point to accept and really see if we're going to take this new food pyramid seriously, but even more so if we're going to look at it carefully and make good decisions, not just for ourselves, but for our children, right? Because for years, our children have been fed cereals that are absolutely horrific and damaging for their bodies, which is why so many young people today are overweight, pre-diabetic, and struggling. Keep in mind, Bonusware, all those heart healthy checks that are on the foods that we eat and we feed our children. If this food were really heart healthy, we should have seen a dramatic decrease in people having cardiac issues. But that's not what happened. More people have cardiac issues. It is true that fewer people today die from a heart attack than when heart attacks first became a thing. But understand that they didn't even used to be a thing. Heart events we're not like typical in younger people. And now we end up seeing people in their 30s, in their 40s, having heart issues. That used to be something that happened to you at the end of life, not in the middle, in the midpoint. So we need to understand that just because we have the medical technology to save people from these events doesn't mean that they should be happening. But yet we walk around with this belief that, yeah, you get older and, diabetes becomes a problem, heart issues become like issues. Like you get older, your skin just goes to crap. Like it's just not possible to have good skin when you're older. Like we have all these ideas about what's normal, natural, just happen because we're old. Oh my gosh, it is such a damn lie. I feel better today. I'm doing more, I have more energy. My skin is back to being healthy. My body is back to being, I am healthier today than I was 10 years ago. Less inflammation in my body and able to do sleeping better, waking up awake and rested. All the things that I couldn't do before and was blamed on, well, you're getting older. I'm older now. Saturated fat is another thing. Now, I don't, like I said before, I don't know the numbers, but what I love about saturated fat that is obvious is that we are no longer being told that lean is better. We are being cautioned not to overeat fat, but we shouldn't overeat anything. So I feel like it frustrates me that they're cautioning us not to overeat fat rather than cautioning us not to overeat carbohydrates. You see, you have a bigger issue with overeating carbohydrates than you have with overeating fats for a very simple reason. If you are only eating meat, fish, poultry, eggs, so basically if you're only eating real food, then when you try to overeat, it's really hard. Now, I know this, and I can give you two different examples of how I learned this. The first example, I, on my keto way of living, used to have a piece of um, pork belly and a side of vegetables. And at Costco, when you buy pork belly that's already sliced up for servings, like each piece is about the same size. In my keto way of eating, I could eat one piece of pork belly and I could eat the vegetables on my plate. No problem. I was eating low glycemic vegetables and I was able to get through that meal. When I went carnivore, I tried to have just the one piece of pork belly for a meal. I could not even get through, like, I was barely able to get half of it. Let's say I got, yeah, barely able to get half of it. So not 2/3, not 3/4, half of it. So the simple act of removing the vegetation off the plate inhibited me from being able to finish all the fat that's in pork belly, right? Here's what's interesting. I didn't realize that. I thought I just don't like it anymore. Because why? Because about halfway through eating it, I started to get this like kind of like, you know, that thing. Now, I would have associated that in my history with wanting to void, right? Like I'm gonna hurl. And later on, I noticed sometimes I would have a similar thing happen if I ate ribs. Because again, I had taken all the vegetation off. And now I'm like, wow, I don't like pork belly anymore. I don't like ribs. What's going on? Well, this is when I went carnivore. And then eventually, when I had a conversation with Dr. Chafee, it all made sense. Where he said that because we eat vegetation, so fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and legumes and all this stuff, we don't eat our meat, just meat. We eat it with side dishes. Those side dishes allow us to eat more. So going back to the beginning of this, when I said that they're focusing on satiation for women and muscle building for men, pay attention that if we continue to eat our meat, fish, poultry, eggs with side dishes of vegetation, then that stop eating thing that was happening to me, which is what Dr. Chafee helped me to understand, my body was simply telling me, Violet, stop eating. You've had enough. And it was on much less meat than I was able to eat when I was doing keto. Pointing that out because I find that fascinating. My body didn't need as much when I was eating carnivore. Now, at that point in time, but very likely because maybe I still had repairs to do and it wanted to have less food to process. One possibility. But the other possibility, I did end up losing a little bit more weight then. And I find that interesting because I was great at the weight I was at. I was happy. I was fine. Our body knows what weight we are supposed to be at. We need to stop fighting with our body. Because if we fight with our body, we end up putting ourselves in positions where our body is then trying really hard to heal us, but it can't because it's constantly fighting with us. Fat is an essential building block for our cells, all of them, right? Whether we're making muscle, whether we're making skin, whether we're making brain tissue, whether we're making blood vessel, it doesn't matter what we're making. Every single cell in our body is made of lipids. We need animal fat to be able to build us, to repair us, to, right? Like to stay healthy. Lipids, animal fats, are necessary for hormones. Hormones tell our body what to do. So again, if we don't have the right hormones, can we even repair ourselves? We put ourselves in such a bad situation for the years and years and years and years that we were following the guidelines that say minimize fat. For the years that we're saying seed oils are healthier than animal fat. I don't want to get ahead of myself. That's the next section. So let me just move to that right now. Animal fats are being prioritized. They're finally allowing us to see the benefits of animal fats. So Animal fats aid with vitamin absorption. Vitamin A, D, E, and K, which are essential for health in general, but apparently, especially for heart health, and you need fat to absorb them, the right fat. So these seed oils were not helping us to absorb them properly, but animal fat does. So tallow, butter, ghee, um, pork fat, lard, um, bacon grease, like versus we keep being encouraged to use things like olive oil and avocado oil and coconut oil, and because they're plant-based and they're healthy, they're not healthier. They are not healthier. Do they sometimes have a higher smoke point? Sure. Some of them, like I think coconut oil has a pretty high smoke point. Avocado oil too, I think is a pretty. So yes, if you're cooking something that needs higher heat, maybe that's a helpful reason to. But tallow and lard have a pretty high smoke point too. So do I see the value in? Well, you can get them cheaper, those plant oils. Then, I mean, honestly, tallow and lard cost a lot. If you were gonna deep fry something, well, I mean, even deep frying it in avocado oil is pretty expensive, but coconut oil, maybe you could do it, but the flavor doesn't come out as good. And well, I mean, okay, that's a personality thing. So I like the flavor better. So I'm not gonna go there. What's my point? They have us focused on plant stuff as being just healthier all across the board. And I really do want you, Wellness Warrior, to think about now that we have this new food pyramid, all the doctors that have been saying to us for years, there's no problem with eating meat. There's no problem with eating the fat that goes along. As a matter of fact, it's advised to eat the fat that's going along with your meat. Please pay better attention to those videos. You go back on my channel and watch the videos where I talk about it. It is important. It's helpful. It what makes your body is made of protein and fat. Now, Maggie McGee, sorry, I said that wrong. At Maggie G, so GEE 1354, gave me this comment, and I just wanted to read it because I thought it was so indicative of what we're talking about here. She said, in my 40s, I was 5'6" and 110 pounds. That was normal for me since I was around 12 years old. And even after having two children, she was still at her 110. I started on heart medication and gained 80 pounds. I also became vegetarian. The doctor told me I was doing everything right, even with the weight gain. They told her she was doing everything right. If you're gaining weight, that's your body saying this is wrong. Just pointing that out. And she started the heart medication before any heart. So preventative, right? Your body saying, hello, what are we doing? I had two heart attacks and surgeries at 68. I went home and started searching and watching YouTube. I stopped the medication and went keto and eventually carnivore. So this is someone validating what we're talking about here. The fact that if you really want to do better in life, the thing you're going to do is pay attention to your body and then react to what information your body is giving you. All the years that I had rashes, and every dermatologist telling me, you just have to learn to live with it. You just have to learn to live with it. And now that I've been eating keto, now that I've been eating, well, I ate keto for 6 years. I've been carnivore now for 2 years. But in the time that I did keto, I was able to fix my skin issues. My hands had these, like, they were, I don't even know, callousy and like ridiculously not doing well because I didn't know about the drying effect of um concrete, and I did some work around my house and my hands got, and I didn't like take protect my hands. For years my body was not able to repair my hands because of the stupidity I was eating. And now that I've stopped eating the stupidity, my hands are fine. And just to tell you how bad seed oils, no, sorry, just to tell you how bad plant oils are for us, for the longest while my hands were doing better, And then, but they were not still perfect. Like right now, I don't have any issues on my hands. But for a long while, I had like still a little bit of calluses, like near this part of my hands, and on this one finger particularly, my pointer finger on my right hand, which was the hand I used the most when I was working on the stuff. My this was still there for years. And then one period of time, I was making my keto coffees in the morning, and I just decided I was bored of having coconut oil in my coffee. I started putting butter. For a few months, I used butter. I didn't even notice it. Again, when you do better, sometimes you don't even realize how things are changing. But my hand, the palm of my hand and my thumb, I'm sorry, my pointer got better. And I mean, I must have noticed it on some level because I remember that when I went back to taking coconut oil in my coffee, about a week later, my finger was bothering me, my pointer, and then the skin problem started coming back. It was peeling again, and like my skin was just peeling, and it wouldn't stay looking good. And I remember saying to Pat, "Do you think, like, could it be possible that the coconut oil is messing with my body's ability to keep my hand looking good?" So what did I do? I again stopped putting coconut oil in my coffee. And as a matter of fact, I stopped cooking with it altogether. I was like, whoa, I took it out. My hand, it took about another 2 months, but my hand was back to being smooth again. And I was like, yeah, I'm not touching that stuff ever anymore. And at that moment, I didn't just take out the coconut oil. I took out the avocado oil and I took out the olive oil. And I like if I was making a Caesar salad dressing, like back then I was still keto, I would have used it. But other than that, I was not using anything but real oils from butter. So I was using butter, tallow, and lard. And that was all I was cooking with at that point. And the only time I was having avocado or olive oil was if I had a salad. I would use that in my, but I was no longer using coconut oil. That went off my list completely. I don't know that coconut oil is so different than avocado, olive, peanut, all the like I don't know what makes them different. That's what happened to my hand. And I wanted to share that with you because we see what happens to us. And then when you bring this kind of stuff, you don't know how many times I brought to my doctors. Oh, they give me, I for sure with the iron pills that I was told to take when I was a young child. Myself and my mom brought to the doctors, oh, she's feeling like this. She's all of a sudden, she's tired, all of a sudden. And they were like, no, that can't be a result of that. It's something else. Keep taking the medication. They were wrong, right? Thalassemia. So they were wrong. But I think the other thing that I want to point out is that there were other occasions where I went to my doctors, like this whole thing about the skin rashes. Oh, learn to live with it. I had my thigh of my leg was numb. Which leg was it? My left leg, I think it was numb at one point. Learned to live with it. My joint pains. Okay, I was sent for physio, but never did they look at food or mention food. And even when I ate things and had reactions, I was never believed. My doctor said that it's not possible that nightshades could be causing your joint pain, even though A, I saw the connection, but B, I found a whole forum of people talking about anybody else notice that when you eat tomatoes or eggplant or blah, 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 you're having joint pain. All this from people who have arthritis or other kind of joint issues, right? So the professionals that we look to do not always see what we see because they're looking at it through this lens of I was taught it's this, even though the I that was taught it's this is towards, so therefore this is the medication solution. Why not listen to us when we say, hey, I see a connection between this food and whatever? Encourage us. How about you try taking that food out and let's see what happens. Let's see if it gets better. We never look at it that way. And it's very, very frustrating to me that we never look at it that way. Now, conflicts of interest are another huge problem, Wellness Warrior. So we've been seeing the results of allowing the Food and Drug Administration to be both the advocate for safety and efficacy of like the foods and drugs and whatever that we take, while simultaneously being responsible to approve that same food or drug or whatever. Like somehow they're touching both sides of this coin and they shouldn't be. And I feel like, how do we see that? It's things like seed oils, right? Like, not only are seed oils known to be inflammatory, known to be problematic for health, but like, why do we bother regulating something that we know is not healthy? Why not just take it out altogether? Not only that, these things are subsidized. So seed oils are subsidized, even though they have catastrophic implications and impact on our health. So in the new plan, we're shifting. So the new food plan that RFK proposed, we're shifting back to ancestral fats, and we're shifting back to real foods. And the goal seems to be voiced, which I love the fact that they voiced it, to end systemic inflammation, right? I love that they went against what originally Biden was talking about, you know, health equity, that everybody should have the same level of health. And they seem to be focusing more on everyone should have good health. And it's not about everyone being equal. It's about, can we get as many people to healthy as possible? And yes, I know that doesn't sound great, but I do understand it, because I'm going to say this out loud to everybody who can hear me. If you can afford to eat meat, fish, poultry, eggs daily and can make that the way of eating, do that. Not everybody can do that. There will always be people who cannot afford to have meat only every single day. As crazy as that sounds to me, because I will tell you that by doing meat only, my grocery bills went down. But for some reason, I'm learning. Now, maybe it's because you're afraid and you don't think you could manage to only eat meat, fish, poultry, eggs. That's possible. You might be asking, well, Violet, if I only eat meat, fish, poultry, eggs, what's my side dish? Wellness warrior. When I have meat, my side dish is eggs. When I have another kind of meat, my side dish will be, oh, calamari, or like, I will put scallops as a side dish. I'll put salmon as a side dish, or maybe I'll just have salmon as a meal and have eggs as a side dish. So what I'm pointing out to you, Almswar, is that your side dish does not have to be plant. Your side dish can be whatever makes sense for you. And especially going towards the goals that you have for yourself. Because I now have a new goal of getting in enough iodine, getting in enough omega, the right omegas, I think it's three, getting, like, because I now understand how much the selenium that's in seafood, because I now understand the benefits of eating seafood, I've decided to put my energy towards getting more seafood in, which now makes it a potential side dish when it's not the meal. And I am very happy with that decision. And but I'm just pointing out to you again, the same way that you don't have to have cereal for breakfast, you could have steak or fish, or right? You don't have to have cereal. The same way that back in the day, I used to have breakfast for supper. You can still do that. I oftentimes will have eggs and bacon for supper. If that's what I'm in the mood for, that's what I'll eat. So whatever you're going to eat, make sure that it's the healthy thing, right? Because they were subsidizing these seed oils, and they subsidize, not even they were, they are. I don't know if they've stopped that yet, but they subsidize also processed foods. Processed foods are a combination of chemicals, sugars, seed oils. These are all things that have been known to cause inflammation. Why are they subsidizing that? The health issues that these things cause, they should not be allowed to be subsidized, and yet they are. So there's still conflicts of interest that need to get ironed out in the government, so that their focus can truly be on feeding us what's healthiest, because if they don't do that, I can guarantee you that the food companies and the medical companies and the pharmaceutical companies, like all the companies who have the weight loss industry, all the companies that have an interest in us eating wrong will figure out a way to still get these things to market. I have another comment here from We Are at Random, and it says, whatever the government subsidizes, corn, wheat, soybean, dairy, is what we should be avoiding. Now, I didn't even touch dairy in this yet, but dairy and the casomorphins, I have a video actually. You can watch it if you want to. Maybe I'll link it later, where I talk about how dairy had me chasing and I didn't even know. So, again, there's a lot of stuff. Now, in the new food pyramid that RFK proposed, they're encouraging us to eliminate processed foods, full stop, right? So I love that part. Because if we eliminate the processed foods, full stop, then the silly stuff stops impacting our health. However, just because we eliminate added sugar, and even at that, I want to point this out too, because it's the wording was a little bit confusing. So I saw one place where it says, no processed foods, like eliminate it. But then at the other side, it says keep the added sugar to a minimum. So are we saying no, or are we saying minimum? And then they were talking about the differences for old people, differences for children. I couldn't find what they said about old people. For children, I did find it. And what I saw seemed to be saying that they were only suggesting that children under 4 get no added sugar. Can I just point out to you that when my daughter was born 21 years ago, without any of these changes, I was aware that no added sugar for her. She didn't eat candy. She didn't have soda. She like no added sugar things in her diet until after she turned 4. So, I mean, I don't understand why we are starting there. And why is it only children under 4? Like, what about the 10-year-olds that are obese and struggling? So, I do feel that as much as I love the new direction, the new food pyramid is still like leaving me with question marks. So I have a commenter that said, so a fish on second said that the new guidelines are a very good start. I believe that the fact that they oh my goodness, I believe that the fact that there is still a limit on saturated fat still needs to go, and a limit on seed oils needs to be instituted. And it does make me question why they aren't looking at the things that, again, we know are inflammatory and saying in this new round of corrections, get rid of that, leave that. And just being very top of the the line. This is what's good. If you're not doing this, you're potentially causing harm. The same way that they did with alcohol and cigarette. Like, why do we want children any children? 18 and under, or in the US it would be 21 and under, you should not be able to get access to this harmful stuff that we know is damaging our bodies. We know it. But that would be a huge jump that they would have to make, right? From we're having this all the time to you can't have it. As a matter of fact, here in Canada, very recently, they even made um, marijuana something that you can get your hands on. And it's like, why would you do that? Why is that okay? And I do think it's like, it's again, big picture. If you regulate it, you can tax it and do all the things, right? Versus trying to eliminate it. And so, yeah, now that's not a problem anymore here in Canada. I'm not sure how it is in the US, but I really do feel like we need to question whether or not we're we're getting towards what we're trying to get towards with our anyways. I don't want to get off topic. There's a huge problem that I want to point out because This this new way of doing things, the thing that's not being addressed is the dependency, right? The whole world has a dependency on carbs. It's not just Canada, it's not just Violet. The entire world has a dependency on carbohydrates. And because we've exported the fun foods around the world, right? We've introduced people to highly processed rather than focusing them back or letting them stay focused on, because some places we're still focused on eating off the land. And we introduce them to this processed stuff because it's convenient, because it's cost effective, because it makes North America money, which is probably the biggest reason. Those people around the world eating stuff that we produce makes us money. Do we need more money? Apparently. Um, is getting more money this way the best thing for the planet? I don't think so. So the new food guidelines, they're not going to miraculously remove our cravings and our chasing behavior, right? They're not going to stop people from being dependent on carbohydrates. They're not going to stop people from chasing and wanting and fighting in their brain about the carbohydrates that they're now learning that they shouldn't be eating. I feel like RFK's plan potentially won't make it as far as he wants it to make it, because if we don't educate people on the fact that they're dependent on carbohydrates, it is not just something you like to do, right? Like I wasn't just eating these chocolatey things because I like them. I was eating these things because I couldn't stop eating them. Right? I loved chocolate was a lie I was telling myself because I couldn't understand why I had to have chocolate every day. So I just decided that I loved it when in reality, I was dependent on it. My brain getting that dopamine hit had a huge impact on then what I'm. So remember, I said earlier, whatever we are looking for, we're going to find, right? We are going to be drawn towards it. It's going to be all around. We will see it because we're looking for it. That's how this works. And every store I went to, I was able to find chocolate. Every party I went to, if there was chocolate there, I would find it. Every scenario that I was in, and then at my home, I just made sure there was chocolate always around. We will create the story where we find what we're looking for. So if we really want to save the next generation, the Make America Healthy Again movement needs to provide more light, right? So that we can actually see the impact that the good food has on our body and the negative impact that other food was having on our body. Our children's bodies are being built with whatever we feed them right now. What are we feeding them? Like, can we just stop and pay attention to that? Anybody who has a child under the age of 18, think about what you've been feeding your child. What foods do you bring into your house for your kid to eat? And when you stop and think about that, and not only that my kid's going to eat it, probably I'm going to end up eating it too because it's in the house, right? How is that impacting your health? How is that impacting your kids' health? How is that impacting their ability to think? Because as Dr. Georgia Ede pointed out to us, our brain is part of our body, right? And since our brain is part of our body, whatever we are feeding it is going to determine how healthy it is, which now determines how clearly are we thinking, and therefore determines our ability to take care of ourselves, their ability to maintain a job. Do we end up with mental health issues or not? This is so, so, so important. What are we feeding our children? Can I just point out, Wellness Warrior, that the fact that 1 in 3 adolescents are pre-diabetic should have us all not just concerned, screaming, yelling, and upset with the powers that be that have allowed this to be the story. Because they've allowed it to be the story by allowing doctors to be trained on bad information that they are then holding us parents to, right? The all the food guidelines, the teachers that will send a note home saying, how come there's no fruits in your kids' lunchbox? right? Even if your kid's lunchbox is full of meat and cheese and, right? Where's the fruit? Where are the vegetables? 20% of children and adolescents are obese, Wellness Warrior. But teachers and doctors, and they're focused on fruits and vegetables because don't forget, we've been taught that those are healthier than meat. We are now finally being given the real data that is not true. But we need to unlearn all of that information. How are we going to unlearn that when we are walking around controlled by the dependency that grew out of, for in my case, it was 46 years of eating vegetation first meals. And yes, it's vegetation first meals. If you put vegetation and meat products, so meat, fish, poultry, eggs, if you put those on the same plate, vegetation takes over. Because, like I said to you, as long as there were vegetables and they were low glycemic, under my 20 grams or under my 18 grams, because I'm under 18, as long as those carbohydrates are on the plate, they're running the show. Because any carbohydrates you eat is more than your body needed, because your body makes all the carbohydrates than you need. You never need to eat any. So as soon as they come in, your body's like, uh-oh, let's go. And we're in storage mode, or at least we're in protect violet from that what just came in. But that's also triggering us, and we're able to eat more. You see the problem? So that top row where it's meat and low glycemic vegetables, that top row is still problematic. It really should be no processed sugar until adulthood. That's what it should be. That's what we should be aiming at. And we need to understand the severity of dependency that has been created in us, adults, children. Like we need to understand that. So in the new plan, what I do love is that the neural health protection factor that's going to be built in, because they're removing the petroleum-based dyes and artificial additives that are going to protect our brains, our children's brains. It's going to protect our guts. So I definitely love that part of what he's doing, like the bans he came out with and just like totally banned that stuff. Terrific. It's what we needed. But yeah, it's really, really frustrating. So Stephanie, I don't know how to say your last name, Stephanie, so I'm not going to try. I apologize. Said, the wonderful part about this is school lunches will now reflect the pyramid recommendations. From what I've seen, more people are turning away from processed food. Make the world healthy again. Now, I want to point something else out to everybody watching this. I want to show you something here. I got Stephanie's um, comment, luckily, but kind of by accident, because here's what happened to Stephanie's comment. Now, I hope you can see my pointer, but if you can't, if you look at the top, it says held. So video comments, and under video comments, it says held. This was in the held section. So YouTube said that this was ranked for blocked words. I don't see any blocked words in there that would make any kind of sense to block. So I really am frustrated that somehow companies have this ability to influence even people like me. I'm just talking, but why is it that somehow that gets pulled into blocked words when she said nothing rude, nothing, there was nothing wrong with what she said, and yet it got blocked. Right? I don't have those anything like that as a block would make the world healthy again. Could that be what got her? So it's just frustrating, Wellness Warrior, to know that no matter what we do, they are going to still be restricting, and the people that control things can block us from seeing good information. I'm being blocked from seeing a good comment. Like, so what does all of that mean, right? What is it doing to our ability to make good decisions for ourselves? I want us to take care of ourselves. And because I want us to take care of ourselves, I'm going to propose that we do a very practical rebellion. In the video that I put up last week, that you can go back and watch if you want to, it's linked below as well, I talk about the $3.73 solution. And I want you guys to understand that this new food pyramid is just the beginning. This is not a new diet. This is us moving back to the healthy way of eating that we were meant to eat the entire time. So for me, by prioritizing meat, fish, poultry, and eggs, I was actually able to make meals. So I had 22 meals that came in at $3.73. I'm going to update this information because in last week's live stream, I talked about the fact that I plan to add seafood to my everyday. And I've started doing that. So I'm going to do another grocery and I'm going to add that seafood in, and we're going to see how many days I'm able to purchase for and what the new bill is going to be with the seafood added. A wellness warrior, I want you to understand that we can actually escape the nutritional lies that have been taking our money and our health by simply focusing on eating real food, whole food. Because when we eat the processed garbage, our body's just hungry an hour later, 2 hours later, if you're lucky, 2 hours. You are not building anything of quality. So what is my goal? Is my goal to have the healthiest body possible, or is my goal to eat fun stupidity, the garbage that companies keep trying to sell us? Like this stuff, right? Like I actually used to let my daughter have that when she was little. It was like, oh, she was like fussing at lunchtime. She didn't, I'll just have one of those. And I thought, okay, it's cheese, it's crackers, it's good for her. Like we just blindly believe when they tell us that that's healthy, or at least I did. What's the difference? When you're full on nutrient dense food, the brain stops. The hijack stops. The brain is working. Like your brain isn't being messed with. Your brain wants to think properly. Your brain wants to show you better paths and how to be successful. And it can't do any of that because we're eating the wrong stuff. We're eating stuff that just isn't healthy for us. I want you to realize that your health, real health, true health, isn't expensive. But being hungry is heck of expensive. It's so expensive because if I'm hungry, how many packs of Ritz of those crackers would I end up eating, right? My daughter got one. I probably would have eaten two, right? And then I'd be hungry a little bit later. Maybe I have two granola bars, right? Then be hungry a little bit later, and right until it's supper time. But then what happens after supper before we go to bed? We're constantly eating. And I didn't like fruit, so I wasn't eating fruit. But we were constantly eating. In this new plan, this new food pyramid that he's proposed, we eliminate garbage from our diet because there's no more processed foods. They're just gone. So no garbage means that the dopamine-driven overconsumption just stops. Well, it can stop. It can stop. Will it just stop? No, not if we're still eating high levels of vegetation, whatever kind of vegetation that is. Eating nutrient-dense food is going to give your body the lipids and the proteins to build and repair itself. When I say nutrient-dense foods, what I'm talking about is meat, fish, poultry, eggs. Salt. We need salt and we need iodine. But I want you guys to understand that if we give our body what it needs, our body will absolutely heal itself, repair itself, prime you for other activities, prime you for going out. And so I love to longboard, I love to snowboard and ski, I love to ride my bike. I love to ride my scooters, which are kick scooters. I do have electric scooters too, so I'm not gonna lie. I love to rollerblade and like go rock climb, sorry, bouldering and tree to tree climbing. So many things that I love to do. I wouldn't be able to do them had I stayed in the body that I was in at 46. Because at 46, all of my activity stopped. I could barely walk. At 46, my ability to walk got cut down to like 25%. My ability to sit wasn't there either. That was also 25%. So I was doing this awkward thing of stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down, walk the minimum I could walk to get done what I need to get done in the day because every position hurt. Laying down hurt. Like every position hurt. So if I was still in that body, I would not be able to do all the stuff that I've got back. Luckily for me, I only lost them for about a year. But let me tell you something, Wellness Warrior. Losing them for a year really helped me to understand I want to have my ability to move around for as long as I can have it. And it really helps me to keep myself on track. I keep looking and learning and trying to understand, not just because it's not just because my body is important to me and these activities are fun. It's because I truly understand that whatever I'm eating impacts my thoughts, how I feel emotionally, how I feel physically, and what I'm able to do. I'm not able to help you guys if I'm sick, if I'm struggling. I won't be able to show up. And I want to show up because it irks me. It irks me that I didn't know this information when my daughter was little. And so I wasn't able to save her from being pulled into the same stuff that I'm in. And what level will she need to get to before she buckles down and says, okay, I'm not eating this stupidness anymore? I don't know. But I know there's some of you out there who are ready. You're already in pain. You're already struggling. And let's go. Let's get started. If we eat only the healthy foods, the cost of living life just diminish. It goes down, right? All that fun stupidity is empty calories that sends your body back out to ask you for more, ask you for more, ask you for more. Now I'm able to eat like a pound of meat and 4 eggs. That's what the 373 was based on. Was me eating a pound of whatever. So whether it was meat, fish, poultry. No, not fish. It was meat. So any kind of meat, whether it was ground or whatever, and chicken and 4 eggs. So, I mean, that's a good amount of food in a day, Wellness Warrior. It's more food than a lot of people who are living in other parts of the country. Like, they don't get that much meat. They don't get it. Now, Stephanie again says, you're totally correct. I save money by switching to carnivore. I appreciate you saying that because I think that most people would, but you're not aware. Right? Most people are not aware, just like me. I was not aware that I was dependent on carbohydrates. I had no idea. I didn't know until I tried to take them out of my diet and realized, whoa, withdrawal? What the? And I realized I was dependent. So, if you've never tried to go from standard diet to keto, you don't know about the issue with carbohydrates. If you've never tried to go from keto to carnivore, you probably still don't fully get it, right? Like maybe you're still in this idea that no, I can do all the, but I'll tell you, not throwing vegetation away was one of the first things that helped me because when I did keto, I only bought vegetables that I was willing to eat. And then when I stopped being willing to eat them, I dramatically reduced them and I only kept the vegetation in my diet that I really wanted to eat. That helped a lot. Like really, really helped a lot. And then when I went to carnivore, And it wasn't a hard transition because I had been already doing so very little vegetation. It was easy. I just did it. So, what's your goal, right? If we keep wanting variety, those old rules will be stuck in our head, right? So even though there's a new food pyramid, if you keep your mind around, I need the variety, I need different, if you do that to yourself, you will end up looking more at that old food pyramid than you are at the new one. I will point something else out to you. I eat more varied today, believe it or not. And this is the part that drives me nuts. When I first went keto, my variety in the standard American diet wasn't variety. I ate pizza, I ate, chicken burgers with fries, I ate poutine, I ate rice and some kind of meat. I ate pasta and some kind of meat. That's what I was eating, like all the time. For breakfast, I was having either bowl of cereal. I mean, honestly, all the cereals are the same garbage. So look like variety to me, but they're all the same garbage. Occasionally I would have pancakes for breakfast. It's not that big of a, like, we think we are doing such varied things. Really not. The only time I would have something kind of different is if I went out to eat, and I didn't do that often. Why? Because all my money was going to groceries, right? I was having granola bars, always bought the same kind of granola bars. I was having ice cream, always bought the same kind of ice cream, always bought the same kind of cookies. Was I having variety? Not really. Look at my diet now. So I started off with three different cuts of ground pork. So sorry, three different cuts of pork. So I had ground pork, pork chops, um, pork roast. I would sometimes put a pork shoulder in there. So pork is my main meat because of my thalassemia, and chicken. Now I've added fish, so salmon mostly. I like the taste of that, but I can do tuna. I do sardines. I found sardines that were not packed in water and whatever. I found them like real sardines that I can just put in on to stove. I have to cook them. So sardines. Um, and I added scallops at one point, and I brought them back recently, and calamari. Wellness warrior. In terms of different flavor profiles, that's more variety than what I was doing on standard diet, because on standard diet, a lot of that stuff all tasted the same. It was sweet, period. I'm open to trying new types of fish now where I wasn't before. I'm open to trying, oh, I can eat turkey now where I hated turkey before. I can eat turkey now. I can also eat ham. I do eat bacon. I forgot about bacon. Um, did I mention eggs? I think I did, but if I didn't, I eat eggs as well. So there's so many things in my diet that taste different. So there are actually different taste experiences compared to what was happening in my life before. We think we have this huge variety, but it's just slapping sweet on top of sweet on top of sweet on top of sweet. And it's not really the variety that we think we have. The new food pyramid is a step in the right direction, but we can do better, which is a point that I want to make. We can do better. So even though the food pyramid has been flipped, there's still three openings for big food to keep us chasing, dopamine dependent, and gaining weight, Wellness Warrior. I'm actually covering that in next week's video, but for you guys, you're going to get access to it right now because you're in this live stream. So there's a link in my description that you can click after the Q&A. After the Q&A, it's still going to be there, that you can click to watch next week's video. So I'm looking forward to getting your feedback on that and to hear what you have to say. And I'm excited for it. So let us, I don't know who's calling me, flip over to the comments. Okay. Let's see. Hey, Pam is jamming. Oh, so nice to have you here. Haven't seen you in a little while. Glad you're able to make it to the live stream. Hope I gave you some good information this morning, our afternoon, evening, wherever you guys are, night, wherever you guys are. Let's see. Hey, Pat. Nice to have you in the comments. Let me just make that a little bit bigger. One more. Okay. Hi. Long time no see. I feel any direction away from. Any direction away from the bad food? Yeah, for sure. Um, let's see. Um, I believe that any move away from the old food pyramid and just the openness of the lies we've been fed about saturated fat is a move in the right direction. Okay. So I'm not sure who you think I am, but I'm Violet. Yeah. So maybe you're thinking about somebody else, but that's cool. Glad that you're able to catch this live stream. Let's see. Pat says a bit late to the party, but I don't think you have the right mic input. Oh, thank you, Pat. I mean, a little bit late to the party, but let me just double check. Theoretically, I do. I can see everything looks perfectly fine from where I'm sitting, but I will take that into advisement for the next live stream. Thank you very much. So Make America Healthy Again also just passed a law requiring any vendor that accepts food stamps must offer as many healthy options as they currently offer processed. It would be great if the food stamps were only allowed to be spent on healthy options, because that still puts the onus on the person who's dependent to fight their dependency to choose the healthy option. Like here in Canada, when you have they have a program for women who are pregnant. I can't remember what the acronym is for it, but it's for women who are pregnant so they can get, eggs and milk and like, but it's only, they can't buy chips with it, for example. They can only buy what they qualified as healthy foods back then, which was milk, eggs, I think meat and bread. So that's what they were allowed to get. It was a very tight, like if you're using this money, it has to go on those things. And but that's great. And it helped them to purchase the right stuff. Unfortunately, people just save their own money to buy the junk food. So um processed carbs are worse than marijuana. Yeah, I don't know. I think they're both bad. And anything that messes with your brain's ability to think clearly, we need to question and pause. And both of them mess with our brain's ability to think clearly. And the streaks in the sky and the constant are always more pollutant. So crisscross X are always more pollutant. Okay. Let's see. Some Same as putting a warning label on cigarettes and then the non-stop warning of smoking, and then the $12 a pack people will continue. What if instead of sugar on nutrition labels, we posted glucose index? Hmm. See, the problem is I don't know that people will understand the glucose index. Let me stay close to the microphone just in case you guys aren't hearing me properly. I'm not sure if people will even understand that data. And so maybe what we might need to do is we need to educate people. If we educate people on why carbohydrates are not healthy, if we educate people on why meat, fish, poultry, and eggs are the healthiest thing to eat, even if the current generation feels stuck, it opens the door to parents feeding their children properly from the jump, right? Like what I would really love to see are parents who can make a better decision about the food they feed their kids, right? And I think that if we are able to, so let's say like if I had had a kid today, knowing what I know now, meat, fish, poultry, eggs, that's all the kid would have gotten. I would have just done healthy with salt, right? I would make sure they had enough fish that they don't need the iodine, the extra iodine, and see how that played out. I would have focused all of my attention on making sure that my child had the healthiest possible food. So I think most parents would do that. Like, I don't think that that's a weird thing to believe. Most parents care that their children are healthier. Most parents, like myself, I had that rule about carbohydrates. Like, so, like, no fun foods, like no ice cream, no cookies, no, like, no sugary stupidity. I had that rule because I wanted her to be healthier than I was, right? And like, so I blocked it at 4 until 4. But even when she was going into her like 4 and older, all the way till even when she was 18, like, I like the reminders were always there. Like, you don't have junk food before supper, or before, sorry, before noon. Our rule was before noon, right? Like, it's before noon. Like, there's no such thing as junk food. Like, eat healthy food in the morning, and then you can have junk food after that, right? And it would be after lunch, not before lunch. Like, if it's noon, even if you haven't had lunch yet, why are you having junk food? So I tried to teach her some ideas that would help her to see that real food is the way to go. Now, I mean, we all know that people, how do I say that? Most of us were educated that there are dangers to drinking. And yet we know people who ended up going too far with drinking. And why does that happen? Because when you become the person controlling everything, and then you're having this thing, if you're not being vigilant about how much is coming in, you can get pulled in. And that reality exists for food as well. Processed foods, which we don't even know we should be paying that strict of attention, because we don't even know that they've been engineered to be chased. Processed foods cause people to chase, and they don't realize, because they don't know that they're dependent on it, because they don't know that those foods were created to create dependency. So even if we teach our kids to be careful with this stuff, at the end of the day, what we need to understand is that touching it equals the door is open for that dependency. And that's a scary thing for most parents to think about. I know it's scary for me to think about, especially because I watched it happen. Like, not, well, now I know I watched it happen, right? Like, my daughter at 4 couldn't care less to touch the stuff. She tasted, it was gross. And then when she reached 6 years old, was the first time she actually ate a bit of her birthday cake. I remember I took a video. I was in shock. And that was the beginning of the end. That was the beginning of the end. So I now know, because I watched over the years, like, things that she couldn't stand before. She started eating a little bit, and then she was eating more. And now we're here today. And if I could have really, truly intervened better, for sure, I realize now I should have. But I couldn't teach her something I didn't know myself. And that's where the parents, the people who are starting parenting in 2026, or who have children under the age of, I would say, 3, 4, still have a huge chance to teach their children that this stuff is just not good for you. It's not healthy. But we have to keep in mind, Wellness Warrior, our kids do what we do, not what we tell them. So if I'm trying to teach my kid that this stuff isn't good for me, and they're watching me eat it, they're gonna grow up and they're eventually gonna try it, and they're gonna have, right? They're gonna see what's all the deal. Why are you telling me not to have it, but you're having it? We see that with drinking too, right? We see that with smoking too. So eliminate dextrose and the OS additives for sure. Definitely. Um, so this one says parents have become lazy and accept Lunchables. Make your own version of Lunchables. Hmm. I don't think it's about laziness. I do think we've been sold the idea of convenience. And the problem is everybody wants convenience. One of the biggest issues I have is in the keto carnivore world, there's so many people who will want to do keto and carnivore, but then they're looking for um, replacements for brownies, replacement for cookies, like, they want all these keto replacement foods. So they want to be doing keto, but still eating junk food, right? They want, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. If you want to be healthy, then you need to understand that you're going to end up putting down the foods that were making you unhealthy. And so, yes, I mean, as a parent, there isn't any way to make a Lunchable that's healthy. So let me just put back up and say that when RFK is saying that we need to shelve processed foods, I don't know that everyone understands that bread is a processed food. Crackers are a processed food. So right away, what are we putting in the Lunchable? What is the kid? I mean, sure, you can give them, if I was making a Lunchable, it'd be ham slices and cheese slices and maybe turkey slices, and you can make that sandwich however you want, because is the ham the bread or is the turkey the bread? Do whatever you want. But I think the problem is that most people just don't get it. When they're saying processed food be gone, if he's being serious, that means all the cereals be gone. That means like a lot of that canned stuff in the middle of the store that's vacuum sealed in plastic that's estrogenic and causing all of us to have hormone issues, be gone. All the dyes in the stuff to make it look right, even the dyes that they were injecting in fish to make the fish look pinker, so salmon, they were doing that, shouldn't have been happening. So there's a lot of things that will need to change if this is gonna truly be a good thing for us. I'm waiting to see. I hope it happens. Like I've said a million times, I did not think that we would even get the new food pyramid or any kind of new legislation at all. I didn't think it was going to happen. So this is exciting to me, extremely exciting to me. Um, I think the new version, I think the new generation of parents can turn all of this around if they could only hear what we're saying. Nichelle, I do agree with you. It's hard to hear it. I've been screaming about this for almost 8 years now. And there's still people in my family. Most of them are still eating normally. So let me just be clear about that. Most of them are still eating normally, like no change at all. And the few that have made minor changes, they're not huge changes. I wish that they would make huge changes. So I can definitely hear what you're saying on that one. Most people are not able to realize and to hear that this information, but why can't they hear it? Because of the bells, the warning bells going off in their brains because of their addiction, right? If we are dependent on something, there's no way that we're just going to give it up like that, especially when we're dependent and we didn't even know we were dependent. So you need to get through the barrier of me understanding what I'm dependent on this. No, this is healthy. So even this first hurdle, what I've understood is that this news came out and many experts are talking against it. How are the experts talking against? Again, this is scientifically known information. How are experts talking against it? And yet they are. So why are they? There's financial reasons, there's dependency reasons, there's all kinds of reasons. My daughter, who has 2 children, would call me a medical conspiracist, and now I'm a food conspiracist. Well, the good news though is that now what you're saying is being backed up by what they're proposing in the health, well, wherever this is showing up for the US, I can't remember what it's called in the, the health world, I guess, or but like this information is now being shown to be what's reality, right? And so if it's being shown to be what's reality, then there's nothing to argue with, really. Like you don't need to argue it anymore because it's been put forward. And now it's like, what next? So I'm not really sure I understand this comment. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna skip it. Let's see. So scary how the protocols that come down from on high to the med student are so off base. Root cause medicine is discouraged, it seems. Common foods slowly kill
and their drugs cover up the symptoms. So I definitely feel like the fact that we know that these foods are not helping our bodies in any way, shape, or form, but they're still being suggested. Like eat fruits and vegetables is something that every doctor will tell you if you ask them, like, well, what should I do to help my health? What should I do to lose weight? What should I eat? Fruits and vegetables and lean meats is like what almost every doctor will say. There are the few doctors who would tell you to eat a balanced diet and just avoid telling you anything at all. It's rare to meet the doctor that says, well, if you eat protein and keep the carb and keep the vegetation low, you'll do better. I've never encountered one in my lifetime. However, I've talked to people who have. I think that's amazing that there are even doctors who are willing to say it now. But we do need to accept and understand and I want to say be it's not about being forgiving. It's about understanding that whatever I'm trained to do and therefore how my livelihood is made, I'm going to I'm going to try to follow what I need to follow to keep myself in line so I don't get in trouble, right? And even with my line of work, the reason I don't tell you what I do is because I have the same story, right? So like there are certain regulatory bodies that will come down hard on you if you're talking about one topic that they don't deem you should be talking about. So doctors are not nutritionists and therefore very likely could get in trouble for giving nutrition advice. They should be sending you to the specialist, the nutritionist, even though the nutritionist is also being um, trained by the same institutions that the doctors were, right? Because they're all funded by the same place, right? And this is one of those situations where, dependent on how patient someone is to set up their good situation to make money, the more patient you are, the wider of a net you can cast and the more money you can make. And these companies have slowly, slowly over time put their foot in one door and then another door and then another door and then another door. And they talk to the right people and get scenarios created where now they are educating their nutritionists and they're educating the doctors and and they just keep educating the people that they want to educate to make sure that the way the story flows matches what they want it to say. And honestly, it's working. It's absolutely working. That they've had their hand on both sides of the coin for the longest while because these companies are big enough that they also invest in the solutions, right? So you have a stomach ache, we have a solution for that. You have skin problems, we have a solution for that. But none of the solutions are actually solutions. They are ways to minimize the suffering. I don't want to minimize my suffering. I wish I knew all of this when I was raising my children, but the mainstream media and these doctors that are part of the health scare system have been beguiled, have people beguiled. Yeah, I mean, the problem that I have is that I don't think the doctors are in on it. They are part of the issue as well. Like they are living the same issue as well. And we know that because we see doctors who are overweight. We see doctors who end up with all kinds of issues, right? Say doctors end up with Crohn's, doctors end up with multiple sclerosis, doctors end up with all kinds of health issues. It's not just us normal people that end up in the problem. Like there's only the top of the top of the top of this pyramid that knows the truth about like what should be eaten and what's not shouldn't be eaten. And we get a glimpse of it when we go to expensive restaurants. Because when you go to expensive restaurants, the meat is the main on the plate and the side dishes are really, really ridiculously small. And as a matter of fact, in some of the like really expensive restaurants, the side dishes are there for decoration. They're not even expecting you to eat it, right? So I think that we get a glimpse of the reality that if you are that top 1% in the world, you probably are not eating anything like what we're eating. And because you know better, because it's the same way that it's the same way that the pusher doesn't, use what they push. Like, it's the same kind of idea. Most of them are aware not to fall into the trap, because you fall into the trap, you become part of the normals and not, you don't stay on top. Um, let's see. Women, Infants, and Children is the program here in the US, except it still covers the worst formulas for the babies, a lot of fruit and veggies, and a lot of carb cereals and grains for actually, yes, I think we were able to get, yeah, we are able to get fruits and vegetables too on our system. Yeah. If you buy any whole food, you can get it in our system. What you can't get are the chips and the cookies. Like, you can't get any of the junk food. If you buy even canned foods that are healthy, like if you buy canned meat, I think they would let that. And if you bought like canned vegetables, I think they would let that. So thanks for reminding me of that. I forgot about that part. Let's see. You're popping in. Oh, just popping in to say hi. I'll watch the upload. No problem. Let's see. My daughter brought my 7-month-old granddaughter over for with a box of organic oatmeal and whole grain baby cereal. I told her I can't in good conscience give her that. It's so hard. It's so hard because, I mean, honestly, they put organic on things to make us think that it's a better quality. First of all, we don't even know if they're not still spraying the same stupid glyphosate and all the dumb stuff on the organic crops and just telling us they don't. And because most people don't get their food tested, like, it would take someone to go and test and see like all the crops, what's happening. And people aren't going to do that. But I think the other thing is that, like, the one for me, the one day that I'm feeding you, I'm going to feed you healthy. But I understand that that's one day out of the 7 to 12. So, like, how often do I get the kid? Right. And so, yeah, you're right. There's nothing that would have, like, at 7 months old, she probably could have had some pureed meat and been totally fine. Why aren't they doing that yet at 7 months old? So I don't know. I think there's always a way to get your food on solid, to get your kid on solid food that's healthier. Bit, but I always get the what abouts. What about fiber? What about fruit? What about vegetables? You know what the interesting thing is about fiber? And I think this is something that most people don't they don't have experience with it. Um, and I have a video on my channel. I kind of walked through a little bit of that. I did this little experiment where I compared low carbohydrate foods, but the variance was how much fiber versus how much carbohydrate in the I used nuts as the test element to see like how it impacted bathrooming. You should watch that video. And it was really fascinating to me that the element that contributed to bathrooming was not the fiber content, it was the carbohydrate content. But it wasn't fascinating in a way that, so it was fascinating because what I ended up learning was that, and I learned this from part of it from Dr. Mags and part of it from an article I had read, not an article, a textbook chapter that I had read. So I had found this textbook chapter online and I was reading. I can't find it for the life of me now. I tried to find it so many times again, but I couldn't find it again. But in the chapter, it was talking about our digestive system. And this was back at the beginning when I was trying to understand gut health and whatever. And one of the things that stood out to me is that our stomach has a function where when carbohydrates come in, because our body makes all the carbohydrates that we need, it will pass them through our system as quickly as possible so as not to absorb, to minimize the absorption, basically. And that just completely changed my mind on the reason that vegetation causes us to go to the bathroom. But it also pointed out a flaw. If I'm constantly eating my meat, fish, poultry, and eggs with vegetation, then that swift pass through means that some of my meat, fish, poultry, and eggs that I want to absorb and I want to build and heal me and whatever can't be absorbed because it came in with that stuff. It's going to get passed through with that stuff because the actual food was contaminated with vegetation. I think that that's something that's not spoken about enough, and I think it absolutely helps me to understand how not good for you the vegetation is. How are you going to get the new generation to turn around and do the right thing when, just like my niece and nephew just gave something to their baby, no matter what I've shared with them this last year? How am I going to get the new? So, you know what? I will say that the new generation, um, I'm not sure what HEP is, but I will say that it's knowing something, like we need to know it before we can change it. So the fact that all of this information was hidden for so many years, I went like through school. All of my elementary schooling was, I was told, fruits and vegetables are the healthiest thing you can eat. All of my CJEP, which is like between university, and fruits and vegetables are the healthiest things you can eat. When I was in university, both bachelor's and master's, I did study sciences, biology. Nowhere did they say we should not be eating fruits and vegetables. Never was that said. So obviously, when I was 46 and learned this information, I'm like, wait, what? I need everyone to understand that it's not because we don't know something to be true means it's not true. You know, one of the important things, if you stop and think about it, is how many of us are aware of all the laws, right? Like there are lots of laws. Do we know all of them? Of course not. But at the end of the day, we what we end up doing is that when we are focused on a topic, we'll educate ourselves on the law surrounding that topic. So if I was going to write a book, then I would want to know about copyright and all that kind of stuff, right? Who do I need to reference and da 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 and all these things, right? If so, depending on what it is that you're trying to accomplish, we usually get ourselves up to date on what it is that we need to know to be able to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. And I think that's the most important thing here is what have like what do the new generation of parents learn that then helps them to make sure that they do the best for their families, they do the best for like whatever it is that they're going to do. What do they need to learn? And since we normally want our children to do better than us, once this hoopla about the new food pyramid that RFK put out calms down and it starts being applied, like in reality applied, where it's across the board at the schools, when it's actually being applied, that's when we're going to see the benefit. So because then it becomes part of the ethos, right, of the zeitgeist of all the people, like the thinking, the thought processes of everybody. When everyone's thinking this way, that meat and low glycemic vegetables are healthier than everything else on the list. I still feel like they shouldn't even be on the list, but whatever. When we see that and we can, that's when things will change. And until that happens, there's not much we can do about it. I went low carb, then carnivore, all together down 70 pounds. That is amazing. Congratulations for you. I haven't been this weight since I was age 16 and I am 47. And it's not just about weight. This new way of eating is helping you to heal your internals, which I think is the most important part of this, right? Can we heal what's going on inside? Hello, sing it. How you doing? Same. We'll watch replay. Okay. The wind blows the pesticides right over the organic crops. Oh, are organic crops being grown near non-organic crops? Because if that's the case, then yeah, then them saying that they're, yeah, because I didn't spray them on, but I put them in a place where they can still get them, doesn't change anything. Let's see. I don't know if this is a real question that you're asking me about your oranges and your apples. What I will say is that we know about this thing called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and they have come forward and said that non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is somehow, like, they see the link to high fructose corn syrup, which is why high fructose corn syrup came into the news a few years back. And when that happened, one of the things I pointed out was that high fructose corn syrup is 50% fructose, 50% glucose. And that range can be a little bit more fructose. It can be as high as, I think, 80%, and it can be as low as, like 40%, I believe. But the balance is, fructose and glucose, about 50% is still called high fructose corn syrup. And one of the issues that I pointed out when that story came out years ago was that, so table sugar is 50% fructose, 50% glucose, but also um, fruits are 50% for 50% glucose, 50% fructose-ish, right? Some fruits can be really much sweeter and be a little bit more. The same, like high fructose corn syrup can go, like, up 40 to 80% fruit. So what's the point? What's my point here? Fructose in fruit and high fructose are not that different. It's the same fructose. So if you're asking me, well, but what about apples? What about oranges? What about bananas? What about kiwis? What about if I grow them on my own property? But at the end of the day, it's not strictly about the pesticides. The fructose in those fruits, in the fructose in general, in vegetation too, because fructose are in vegetables as well, right? There is fructose in vegetables. Glycates in your body 7 times more than glucose, according to Dr. Berry. So if Dr. Berry's statement was correct, then we need to be careful with that stuff, right? Because that would be equivalent to saying if I had 1 gram of glucose that my body produced, that could potentially, if for some reason it was there, it was in excess amounts, be damaging to me, glycating my system, right? If I have 1 gram of fructose, it's as if I have 7 grams of glucose because it's glycating 7 times more. So if we put that in perspective, even though most doctors are saying we can have, 20 grams of carbohydrates or less, if some of those carbohydrates are fructose, which inevitably they will be, okay, was that number really 20? And maybe that's why I struggled and had to be under 18, right? And what is my actual number? I'm not even trying to figure it out anymore. I will eat healthy meat, fish, poultry, eggs, salt, iodine, and call it a day, right? They gave that to her, and the baby has had diarrhea for 10 days now. I looked up the brand, and they, along with others, are in lawsuits for having higher levels of toxic metals. Oh, so you're saying that your daughter bought or maybe, okay, maybe the pediatrician might have given her, or a doctor, or the pharmacy, whatever, gave her this unfortunate oatmeal stuff, and the baby has diarrhea. So, maybe this is a time to point your daughter towards what's happening in the world. So there's not just you talking about it, Nichelle. I would point my daughter back to the world, right? You have a baby. I've been telling you for years, be careful with the carbohydrate based stuff. Even if you can't do it for yourself, do it for your baby. Right? I would point my daughter back to the world. Like whenever she will have a little person, my hope is that she'll, at least for her children, help them do better than she did, right? Because that's all we can do. Like my goal when I had my daughter was to help her do better than I had done, right? And so like the junk food and whatever, like I knew that junk food just wasn't good. And even though my parents did super amazing with when it came to junk food, like our household, when I look at all the cousins, our household had the least amount of junk food in it, but it was still there. So when she was under 4, I didn't want it to be there at all. Now, I should have kept it that way. That was the only mistake that I made, is I allowed the junk food back in, or yeah, junk food back in. And with that, she did grow a taste for fruit. So again, my daughter didn't like fruit when she was little. She only ate like she only liked vegetables, so she liked bland stuff when she was little. All her eyes were she was so trained on bland, like not much flavor to it. And I didn't understand what that meant. I'll be honest. So now that I know what it means, I see the value in her focusing on the bland stuff, like the not sweet stuff. And had I understood it, I definitely would have ran with it. So I see the same with young parents not interested in being a mom. Were at home, you could be researched. Hey, buddy. You could be researching the food, processing your own baby food, taking the time to do the best. People do better with you. Oh, people do better with, okay. So I think, like, what I would say is that from a lot of new moms, even if I think, okay, I'm going to do all this at the beginning, there's a part of me, like, when I think of myself, would it have made sense for me to do absolutely everything from scratch if I know I'm going back to work, which I had to do? I had to go back to work. Probably not, right? So like it's the other part of the story is we don't want to set ourselves up to be trying to do something and then going crazy, not being able to do it long term. For anyone who was a stay-at-home mom, yeah, that's possible. That you could have just made that your way of doing things from that point and allowed it to be the case, right? But I think that for me, yeah, I just didn't know better. That was the big problem, is I didn't know better. I knew that the candy was a problem, but I didn't know all the other things that were problems for her. I mean, I did all the things that the doctor told me to do. I breastfed as long as I possibly could. I fed her the healthiest possible food that I could think to feed her based on what I understood to be healthy, right? So I think that now that we have this new direction, this new avenue, like this new idea of what's healthy, how does it play out in the food that we end up feeding our kids? How does it play out in the food that we end up feeding ourselves? So I definitely think that for all the adults who are, let's say you're in your your 30s and you haven't had your or 20s and 30s and you haven't had your kids yet. Feeding myself properly now sets me up that when the kid comes along, I just want to feed them properly. So that's the other part of the story. If it rhymes with gross, don't eat it. Fructose, sucrose, glucose. I like that. If it rhymes with gross, don't eat it. Ha ha ha. My grandson is like that, only bland stuff. Yes, exactly. Because so another thing that Sally Norton kind of mentioned in the interview that I did with her, which I thought was a nice way of looking at it. She's like, she thinks that we should learn to follow our children, right? Because our children's innocence, right? And I've definitely said that before too, is that kids come into the world and the first things we put in their mouth are sweet things, right? We're told to feed, the first thing I was told to give my daughter was baby banana. Have you ever tasted baby banana? It is sweet. Why is that the first thing? So we're giving them baby banana and oatmeal. No, the first thing they should be given is meat and like non-sweet things. If you're going to give vegetation, it should be the non-sweet ones. But I don't even think they don't eat. Not even that I don't think. What use is vegetation when what we need to build a healthy body is meat, fish, poultry, eggs? So animal protein and animal fat. So again, it's just we've been led astray and it's just frustrating. I've just frustrating. It's frustrating. So let's see. HEP is hepatitis B. They're both professionals, and one just graduated from Wharton Business School. The other one works for Metro in Los Angeles as an executive. Pop's kids. Pop's kids out soon as they go back to work, puts them in daycare, feeds them organic and educated them. Why would someone need that among other things, and they just went along with the program? Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Um, it is hard when you're a parent because you want to do what is best for your kid. And again, we've been educated to believe that doctors know more than us. We've been educated to believe that medical knows more than what our body is showing us, right? With the other commenter whose the baby ate the oatmeal and then had diarrhea. So on breast milk, which is milk, it did not have diarrhea. But on supposedly whole healthy foods, it has diarrhea. Does that make any sense? It doesn't, right? It shouldn't have diarrhea on a whole food. But that's what happens, right? We don't understand that our body knows what's healthy. And we don't understand that if our body is giving us signs that our body isn't healthy, it's because our body isn't healthy, right? If our body is giving us signs that what's going on right now isn't good for us, listen to your body. That's it, that's all. Listen to your body because your body is right every time. So I definitely feel like the number one thing that we can all do is look at this new food plan with the idea that it's helpful. It's a good start. It's a good jump off point. He's reformulated things in a way that, okay, but I still think there are things on that food plan that just shouldn't be there. On the old food plan, they had a glass of wine. They said, oh, this should be minimal. You should just like once in a, why do you need to tell me to have something minimally that I shouldn't even have at all? It just shouldn't be there, right? Like when you guys are all making your food plan for the next week, month, year, whatever it is, when you make your new food plan, what I want you to think about is whatever happens in a 2 week period, that's a meal plan. That's something that you're doing. Like that's the rotation that you're on. That you're saying, yeah, these are the things I'm going to eat in a 2 week span. And if you look at that and think about it now, okay, if that's the meal plan I'm running on, and I do something monthly, let's say every once a month I'm eating something that's not in the plan. Do you think that that's inconsequential, right? If you stop and think about it, the disruption that that thing, even though it's monthly, has on that meal plan, because think about it like this. If you have a cleaning person that comes to your house and cleans your house every 2 weeks, but inside of once a month, so every 2 weeks, but inside of once a month, you have a party. When that cleaning person comes, they have to clean more than just what they normally, you're going to get a big bill, right? Oh, I have to clean up for a party. The bill is bigger, right? So of course it will impact the bottom line of your monthly budget because once a month, you're putting this gigantic mess for the cleaning person to have to clean up. So rather than whatever the price would have been, you maybe like are doubling your price. Now, at the end of the year, is my cleaning budget where I wanted it to be? And the answer is going to be no, because you introduced this silliness. Now, some people are having the silliness once a week. And at that week, you've put garbage in your meal plan. How can that possibly be healthy? But I'll even do you one better because I know there are going to be people who say, well, but I only do that once a year or twice a year. Yeah, that's cool. And I think the thing is, though, Wellness Warrior, that, okay, I'm going to use a different analogy this time. If you had a car, um, for sure you're going to take good care of that car, but so you get it car washed, every other week. You take good care of it, and you would say, okay, I'm not doing anything. So, but if once a year you allowed someone to just scratch the car anywhere, just make a scratch, doesn't matter where. It could be under the car, make a scratch on the car once a year. Would you purposefully do that? No, because the damage to the car could turn into rust, right? If it's on a visible portion, it looks ugly, right? Even though it's only happening once a year, it's damage. We need to be paying more attention to the fact that real food is real food. Real food is meant to build and repair us. And anything that's not building and repairing us, and even when you eat real food and it's building and repairing you, there's some trade-offs happening there, right? There is slight amounts of metabolic like damage that happens in the repair process. Like all of that's normal. I'm not going to say trying to say that you're going to ever get away with having a pristine body that's damage free, because that is not possible. What I'm saying is I'm not going out of my way to create damage. That doesn't make any sense. Why would I want that? Why would anybody want that? To go out of their way to create damage means that you're creating a situation where your body is going to struggle and you're not going to be able to, well, eventually down the road. So it's not going to happen immediately. And I think that's part of the reason that most people don't see the problem in it, because it's not going to happen immediately. But the thing that you're going to see eventually, eventually, is that your body is struggling and the healing that you're looking for. So you're eating all this healthy food, looking for healing, that doesn't come. You get sicker and sicker, struggling more and more. That kind of stuff is what got me to give up on eating properly. And I would turn to chocolate again, right? Because my weight's still going up. My back still hurts. I feel horrible. Why am I not eating the thing? Like, why am I not eating the thing? And it would get me. It would get me, Wellness Warrior, because I would feel like I'm wasting my time. I might as well eat the stuff that's going to help me to feel happy. Feel happy. Was I actually feeling happy? No. Dopamine, right? So, I mean, yes and no. I was feeling happy. I was having the dopamine rush. There was euphoria, but is that true happiness? The happiness that I get when I go longboarding or snowboarding, the happiness that I get when I'm climbing with the kids, that feels so much better. That is so much more enjoyable. That is more than amazing compared to any of the times that, yeah, compared to any of the times that I eat something like this and have a moment, because I will reminisce on those days and those times and those events with the kids in my mind, even by myself, right? And it's what makes me excited to do it again. Thank you very much for the good point on ethos. I thought the fructose was natural grown. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I hope that did clarify for you the fructose problem. Because, and if anyone has any last questions, this is the time to put them up. I hope that that clarified the fructose for you, because most people are not aware that the fructose that they're the fructose in fruit. So we keep being told that fruits and vegetables are natural sugars, and then like these other things are. Everything on this planet is natural on some level because we get it from the planet. We turn around and process the heck out of it for the purposes that we want to use it for. But everything on this planet is natural because it's from the planet, it's born out of the planet. So don't let them fool you into thinking that because, fruits and vegetables are natural, it's part of the way they keep us trapped in their system. When we eat high carbohydrate fruits and vegetables, our body is looking for that dopamine hit. And then these things give us such an amazing dopamine hit. This kind of stuff gives us such an amazing dopamine hit, right? So because these things give us amazing, oh yeah, and like even these little things that I remember I used to buy these. This is a cough drop, right? I used to buy these because I thought, oh, it's gonna help, with my when my daughter would have a cold, and it's like, oh, it's a nice, and no, it's full of sugar. It's full of sugar. And you know what? Even these things, this is, like these are artificial sweeteners. These things trigger our brain because our brain does not know the difference between artificial sweet and real sweet, has no idea. And so we still end up putting carbohydrates away, and then our body's going to send us out for more food because we're hungry after, because, oh, we put stuff away we didn't need to. It's much, and especially if my fat storage is locked, I can't just pull fat out afterwards. I need to go and get more energy. But the second problem with this is that these artificial sweeteners, they've recently come out and said that they are not good for us, causing all kind of internal body damage. So it's so important for us to just understand the reality of the damage that these foods create. And it pains me when I call stuff like artificial sweeteners or like fruits food. It's not food. They are entertaining things that we eat because we didn't know better. I want us all to understand that so we can make that switch. Stop entertaining yourself with food. Food is supposed to build your body and help you to heal your body by doing your repairs. It's not supposed to be entertainment. Entertain yourself with people. You want to make friends and join clubs and do that kind of stuff. Entertain yourself with hobbies and activities. Entertain yourself with movies, sure. Entertain yourself with books. My daughter loves that. My daughter reads voraciously. I love it. Entertain yourself some other way, but not with food. Food is a trap. It's going to keep you overweight. It's going to keep you struggling. It's going to keep your body in pain. It's not great. Um, I'm so happy, bee meats, that you like that analogy. Appreciate you taking the time to let me know. There are wild grapes here in Texas, and they are so bitter, you would never eat it. You know what? Dr. Chafee helped me to understand that most of the vegetation that we keep trying to eat and we want to be able to eat these things. He helped me to understand that for every plant that's on this planet, there is an animal that is expected to eat it. Sometimes because of human intervention and we get between the animals and the whatever, maybe they can't get to the vegetation they're trying to get to, but there is an animal for that plant. It's not us. That's the bigger important thing that we need to, it is not us. We are supposed to eat meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and salt. Violet, it was nice hearing from you again. Pam, I'm always happy to have you in my comments and in chat. I'm looking forward to maybe we get a chance to talk in reality. Um, but yeah, I'm always glad to see you in here. So thank you very much for popping in. I'm live every Monday, by the way, 11:20, like always. And Initial says my dad used them to make juice, but had a ton of sugar to make it taste good. Yeah. Again, so the sugar that we add to things to make them palatable damages our health. And then we don't understand why our health is damaged, but it's because we keep trying to force things that we shouldn't be eating to be part of our meal plan, part of our diet world, and it's not good for us. When I was living in Utah, we would go in the woods and there would be gooseberries. They were annoyingly spiky and bitter. Again, I'm sure though that there's probably some gooseberry juice that you could buy in the grocery store that's going to taste amazing, and we don't understand like the processing that they needed to do to make that stuff taste amazing is not something that we want to be part of. And again, I feel like until we really truly see the reality of what all of this is, we're never going to really truly get it, because we don't we don't have a good idea of what it means for healthy food, like what the real taste of healthy food is supposed to be. And now that I'm not eating high carbohydrate foolishness anymore, the fact that I like salmon, and as a matter of fact, I even tasted turkey, crab, no, turkey and lobster and ham again recently, and liked, well, I wouldn't say I liked the turkey. It was neutral to me. It was like, it wasn't bad. It wasn't amazing. It was kind of just like, oh, I could eat that. But the lobster, lobster and the salmon tasting good to me blew my mind. The ham tasting like, okay, I could eat that, blew my mind. So I do feel like as time progresses and my mouth is further and further away from these sweet tastes, I'm starting to see where like my taste buds changed first of all, and we know that that happens. It takes about 5-ish months for our taste buds to change. But what's amazing to me is that they changed, and I'm now like looking forward to eating things that Pat got me to try oysters. I've never wanted to try oysters, but I was like, you know what, with these new taste buds, maybe this is something. Now, would I say it was amazing? Would I want to have it again? No. But was I disgusted by it? Which I thought I was going to be. I thought I was going to hate the flavor because oysters come from the sea and I don't like seafood. No, I wasn't. I actually thought it was like, it was passable. So my world is opening up. I'm starting to see the possibility of eating things. And again, how much iodine, how much selenium, how much of these positive things that they're telling us that we need could I possibly get from eating oysters or question marks, question marks, question marks, right? So this is where it all starts to be really, really interesting because I'm excited to see where this new food scenario takes me. And I was never excited about that before. So, wellness warrior, I'm more than happy to share what I'm finding. Like I said, this past week, based on last week's live stream where I said I'm going to figure out a way to have see some kind of iodine focused something with my 4 meals because I have four meats that I rotate through. And sometimes I have an egg meal, which if when I'm having the egg meal, that's the iodine, so it's fine. But I said I was going to try to find a way to have iodine in every single meal, and I figured it out. And I'm going to make a video on that where I'm going to go more in detail. It's not about recipes. You'll notice that in all the almost 8 years that I've been on this channel, I don't give you recipes. I talk about what I'm doing, I talk about what I'm eating, but I don't give you recipes because it doesn't matter. You are not necessarily going to like your stuff cooked the way that I cook my stuff. So me giving you a recipe isn't helping you. I'm just talking about what's healthy to do and what could trip you up. And if you look at what's healthy to do and try to do it every single day, how does your life change? If I keep letting myself do the fun thing because I'm nervous, because I don't know how to change it, because like all the reasons that we give ourselves, because I can't give up and insert whatever. If I let myself do that, how does it hurt me? Because it does. Exactly. The birds and squirrels eat those grapes. I also learned that from Dr. Chafee. Oh, interesting. Okay, so those are for the birds and the squirrels. Okay. Pam, sure, thank you. I'm always glad, like I said. Let's see. I always wonder where this stuff comes from. I go down the veggie aisles and I ask myself, does this stuff grow in the wild? Where is the wild broccoli or wild carrots? I'm not sure. So I do know that a lot of the vegetation that we currently eat today is not original form. So we have crossbred a lot of plants to create vegetables that are fruits and vegetables, both of them, fruits and vegetables that are, first of all, pest resistant. So it means that we're trying to crossbreed them so that bugs and animals won't want to eat them. And then we spray pesticides on them to prevent the ones that would still try to eat them from eating them. And they're also crossbred. The second reason is for sweetness and enjoyment of flavor. So they are not in any way, shape, or form trying to breed for healthiness. They are trying to breed for, yeah, for taste and for animals not and pests for pests not to take the fruit before we get a chance to harvest fruit. Another thing that I will point out to a lot of people who don't know this information, Sally Norton explained this one to me. Apparently, all fruits and vegetables that are coming from a distance. So, like for example, here in Montreal, we do have a few farms and whatever. When they grow their fruits and veg for our local market, those fruits and veg can get closer to ripeness before they're picked from the tree, versus when they're shipping stuff across to another state, another province, another country, another whatever. When things are being shipped, ah, then they have to pick them really early so that they will make it on the trip. And what Sally Norton helped me to understand is that when you pick the fruit before it's ripe, the plant has toxins in the fruit to stop bugs and animals from eating it before the plant wants it to be eaten, because the seed needs to get to a certain stage so that it can grow in the soil. When you pick it before it's ripe, you're now locking those toxins. So the toxin level in fruits and vegetables that are picked early for shipping is higher than the toxin levels when you pick it ripe off the tree. So I've always said that if I get the chance, I would try an avocado, pick straight from a tree, like ripe avocado off a tree. I would try it just because I want to taste the difference. But that's probably the only piece of vegetation that I'm still waiting to have one last bite of. And maybe that's a bad idea still, because there probably still will be oxalates in it, and I don't want to trigger any oxalate dumping. But there's a part of my brain that just wants to taste it to see what is the difference. But I haven't had avocado in over 2 years now. I haven't had any vegetation. Not over, just under 2 years. It'll be 2 years in February. Yeah. So I don't know what the actual outcome of that would be. I might end up having oxalate dumping, which I don't want to experience. I've heard it's horrible. I've heard it's horrible. I've already lived my horrible experience that has kept me understanding my violet syndrome, and I don't need a new violet syndrome scenario to understand that vegetation is not good for us. So at that point, I'm probably just going to smell it. But maybe when I'm 20 plus years, I might try it. Maybe, you never know. I would hope by that point, with my body completely rebuilt, there would be no dumping to have. And it would just be a taste experience. And I would go on and say, yeah. Now, would I even remember what avocado tastes? I probably would. I do remember what it tastes like now. So I think I probably remember it. But these are the things, right, that run through my mind sometimes of like, will I do it? And I'm not sure what I'll do at that point. What I do know is that I don't have any intention of bringing vegetation back to my life as a part of my meal plan. That's for damn sure. And I'm very aware that when you touch things that you're dependent on, they can pull you in. Next thing you know, you're chasing, and then you're in a problem. And right. So my logical brain is saying, Violet, you're never going to taste it. But my curiosity part of me wants to say that maybe I would, but my logical brain is like, stop it. um, you watched my video with Sally K. Norton, a lot of good. Thank you very much. I'm glad that you found it a helpful interview. She is a wealth of. I think every person that I've ever interviewed taught me something. Every person. They said something, shared something that made me go, oh, some way or another. Whether it was something based on their experience with food, or whether it was something to do with um how they saw something, like a piece of data that they learned, or something that they healed. I mean, when I interviewed Lee, who is a Kent Carnivore, and he's talking about learning about like his stomach issues and his well, possible Crohn's, and his all the digestive issues he had, and that he finally figured out when he had his stoma bag how it's not the meat that was causing the problem. It was all the vegetation that he was eating that was causing all of his stomach upset and everything, because he could now see what was coming out in the bag. And it was a light bulb moment for him. Like that kind of stuff is just like wild to me. Like how do we not know those kind of things? And again, they know these things. That's the part that's kind of hard. And even who's the other guy? Dave Mack, when I interviewed him, and he's talked about running down the stairs, like that the exhilaration of being able to run down the stairs. I can put my hand up for that one too. I don't walk on stairs very often. Now that I'm able to use my hip again, like I often run up and down the stairs. It just I feel I was always a person who ran up and down the stairs, but even more so now I enjoy it because for a little while I couldn't barely walk up the stairs. It was excruciating to walk up the stairs. And so to be able to run up and down the stairs again, I love it. You had avocado from Mexico just last night. Yeah, so when you're talking about an avocado from Mexico, that means that there's more toxin in that than they're letting us know. And I mean, again, all vegetation is going to have more toxins in it than we know if it's shipped from somewhere across the world. Okay. Yep, it does put a lot of things into perspective. I think that when we are trying to do what's better for our health, trying to do what's better for our bodies, trying to do what's better for our lives, being able to see the reality of what the food that we eat, like how that plays out in our body, in our skin, in our energy, in our ability to think, in our like everything, internal health, it all matters. Our weight, which is your weight is an indicator of health in the sense that my body isn't going to keep me overweight unless there's an insulin issue happening or there's a toxin issue happening, right? So if you keep that in mind, then it helps us to really look at things a little differently. Now, don't forget to click on the video that I linked in the description below so you can watch the next week's video. You get to watch it early, don't forget. And I will talk to you guys again next week. So have a good rest of your day, guys. Monday, 11:20, we're going to have another live stream and we'll talk about something. We'll deep dive into some other aspect of eating properly and good health. Thank you very much for coming in here and sharing time with me. I'll talk to you guys next Monday at 11. Today's video is brought to you by My Keto Consultations. You know how to do keto, but you're having trouble just sticking with it? Book a consultation with me and we're going to get you back on track. The link is in the description.